Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Unfiltered Historian and the American Civil War and UK History page. We are here for our last unfiltered conversations, but you might notice the title's a little different. We called it Unfiltered Reflections because it's the last stream we're going to even be doing this year. We're at the tail end of 2021. It's been a hell of a 2021, Darren. I'm pretty sure you can echo that so much. But guys, again, thank you so much for joining. I'm Tyler from The Unfiltered, and next to me, my right-hand man, he actually is on my right today, which is awesome.
There you go. I am Daz from the UK.
Yeah, from the UK.
There you go.
Weird
That's what I'm
introduction.
mucking about. No, anyway, so how you been, Tyler?
It's been a hell of a week, man. COVID's still taking a toll over here in the US, as I'm sure it is the same over there in the UK. But I'm surviving, man. I've got some books next to me now. I got some Civil War reading to do on top of the Titanic stuff I picked up. Some really cool news coming up. Hopefully I can announce that soon. We'll talk about that here.
I hope so.
Comes. Yeah,
Fingers
I hope so.
Crossed.
But other than that, it's been okay. Just kind of taking it easy, enjoying the next few days off of work. Go back on the 3rd, so we'll get back to the normalcy, if there is any normalcy, when we do go back to work. How about yourself? You doing anything fun and exciting for New Year's?
So I've got a little party to go to tomorrow night, and we get to celebrate the New Year 5 hours ahead of you.
You do.
So I'll be in the future, and you'll be in the past, but you'll be catching up with us 5 hours later. But yeah, Happy New Year to all of my American friends and colleagues. But I got some really good books.
Did you? Yeah, you showed me one that I'll
show you this one.
I've already added to my Amazon list.
Look, you might have seen my picture. You might have seen my picture yesterday, but look at this.
Oh, so cool.
This is huge. Look. And it's a beautiful book, and it's called The English Civil War, an Atlas and a Concise History of the Wars of the Three Kingdoms. And it's amazing.
It looks like it's really cool. And so for someone like myself who doesn't really have any background knowledge whatsoever on the English Civil War, other than Torrington, because I think out of any English Civil War battle that I've even heard of, the one I know the most about is probably Torrington, just because of the conversations you and I have had and hearing Alan, yours podcast recently, which is incredible. We listened to that on the way home from Antietam, and I loved it. I mean, trying to drive and listening to the Battle of Torrington, that was a task because I was so engrossed into this podcast. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I've been, Darren, where are the Torrington books? And there aren't many. So to have this atlas that he has that covers not only just Torrington, but the entire English Civil War seems like it's going to be the go-to for my English Civil War reading.
But again,
Daryl Noonan, welcome.
Yeah,
hey, and Daryl, just to remind you, if you didn't see the title, this is an open forum discussion. If you want the link, please ask for it so we can get you in here for our last stream of 2021. This goes for anyone, even if you're not a member of the Unfiltered. If you just want to talk, send away. Well,
there you go.
It's on its
go
way.
For it.
Yeah. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. Yeah, and I'm really enthusiastic about tonight because it's just a night to reflect on everything we've done in 2021. And remember, this brand started in July of this year, July 4th to be exact. Sorry, Darren, no offense there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad it's all right. But we started. He let me off this time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many more tea drinking and July 4th jokes I have until he's not going to let me off. I mean, we're probably borderline reaching them. And Daryl, that has been sent to your personal Facebook Messenger, so just click the link, join in whenever. Gerald Underwood said vor.ong. Thanks. It's probably not a real it's a bot. That's what
I thought. Yeah, it looks like spam to me.
So that's all we do is block user on YouTube. See
you later.
Bye-bye. We have this thing called the band hammer, and I'm half tempted to go get it. It's actually like a House of Representatives gavel I had from my time on Capitol Hill. Remember, you thought I had some gavel fetish earlier this year.
Yeah, I think if you get one of them, you need to bang that on the table. Go and get it. Gone. There we go. He's gone. You're going to upset the neighbours now.
I I probably will. But
Do you know
that's
what?
okay.
I haven't heard anything from Noel for a little while. I hope he's okay.
Yeah, no kidding. I hope he is okay.
Yeah, Noel, if you listen to this podcast, we miss you.
We do. Hope everything is well. I know it's a tough time with COVID and everything going around, but no, we are thinking about you and hope your holidays were well.
Yeah, that's it. Hope you had a nice Christmas.
So you've got that new English Civil War book that I'm kind of dying to read, actually. I don't know what makes me so excited to want to get that, but I've seen that you've been
It is a
excited
nicely
about it.
put together thing, and it's got maps of every single battle that ever took place.
John McFarland says, "Good evening. How is the weather on the other side of the Atlantic?"
Well, let me tell you, it's been miserable for the whole week. It hasn't stopped drizzling and raining. And I know a lot of Americans think that's all it does in England, but no, it doesn't. It's beautiful. When it's beautiful, it's beautiful. But at the moment, it's miserable. But it is the middle of the end of December. So, but yeah, we've not seen the sun for about a week. It's quite depressing.
I heard it badoop. That means we have another gentleman, Daryl. What's going on, dude? That means what's up?
How's your coffee?
Daryl, what's
on it lately?
Oh, we have some serious echo going on your end.
Hold on, let me troubleshoot on my side.
You're good, sir. And John also says, "Wait, I don't hear anything anymore unless you muted us." He says you brought it back from Fredericksburg. Well, actually, hey John, so
no,
Fredericksburg
I did not. I'll tell you
no,
what, it was 60 degrees. What was it? 70? No, it wasn't 70, was it?
Almost.
It was close, wasn't it?
Well, it's like that in Fredericksburg now, and Daryl can attest to that. It is gray and gloomy, and has been that way for probably the past 2 or 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. It's been kind of icky here in Fredericksburg. Oh. Looks like
he's going to do a Robert Dixon on us. Now you see me. Now you don't.
No, you don't. I am a magician.
Yeah. He got offended by the coffee comment, didn't he?
Might be tea drinkers, man. I'm telling you. Can't be just going on as coffee drinkers all the time. There you go.
What was so I had been watching you guys, and then you sent me the link and it opened up in a new screen. I'm like, oh. And I forgot all about having that open.
Well, it sounds good now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you off because we like you.
You missed the coffee.
You must not know me very well.
How's everything on your end, sir? You all good? Everything okay?
Yeah.
Good.
I like the look of that new book you got today, Daryl.
Oh yeah, so
that
far
very interesting.
It's very addictive already. For those that don't know, it's Small Arms of Gettysburg.
That's what I'm talking about.
It seems pretty interesting so far.
Small Arms at Gettysburg reminds me of that wonderful thing you sent me recently.
The ordnance returns.
Yes, those ordnance returns are
they're awesome to read. I hate to do it to people, but perfect example is the Zouave rifle that everyone calls the Zouave. Well, they were never actually issued. They were made, put in a warehouse, and then after the war's over, pretty much were surplus right out. Mm-hmm. But people, oh no, my ancestor carried one of those. I have a picture of it. Well, not understanding that very rifle was based on the Mississippi. And I'm like, no, look, this is what your ancestor carried at Chancellorsville. I actually just did that the other day. Some guy's like, oh, my ancestor in I think it's one of the Zouave units. He's like, oh, I have a tintype of him carrying one of those. I'm like, no, you don't. And then I, figured out what weapons he had. So
awesome. Well, hey, speaking of that Zouave, when are we supposed to talk about that rifle?
Oh, I know. Well, yeah. Obviously, we just need to link up.
I thought about it the other day. I was like, yeah, we just need to get up.
I am off tomorrow, so we could link up at some point tomorrow.
I happen to be off tomorrow as well.
Because I got to work on Monday, so I figure.
Yeah, guess what? I'm back at work Monday too. It's the 3rd of January. You know what that
Oh
means.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to do something tomorrow, we can maybe. I know we talked about doing something later this week. I would love to do I said this is the last live stream of 2021, but if we end up doing what we talked about doing earlier this week, there might be one more surprise live stream.
That would be pretty cool.
It would.
Yeah, I'll give you a yell tomorrow morning.
Sounds good, man. I'll be ready for that. So we're tonight's topic is okay. First of all, there's no topic. This is just one of those. Let's look back on 2021 and kind of talk about what happened with the Unfiltered Historian. We started in July, and specifically on July 4th, which is Darren's favorite holiday.
There you go. I love it.
It's called, have you been
Rebel Traitors Day?
Have you been drinking that coffee? Pretty soon you will love it.
Because what happened was I forgot that it needed a filter.
No.
He calls me and he's like,
and I put the water on it and I thought, oh shit.
You're just drinking it like how they did.
No, I chucked it away.
Dude,
I've still got some left, don't worry.
So many grounds on the top of it.
You could have told me, mate. You know what I mean?
You know, there's Amazon UK. We can order them I don't know what that would equate to in the metric system, but a pound of coffee.
We should get you a pound of coffee. And we need to get you some filters too. Before we send him any coffee,
actually, we could get him the K-Cups.
Do you have a Keurig?
Oh, what now?
Oh, shit.
I don't know if they make Keurig K-Cups. Keurig tea K-Cups.
Yeah.
There's this device. It's like a coffee maker, but it takes these little cups and it squirts the boiling hot water through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And well, you need to get one. We'll send you some bougie coffee cups.
Oh, you're so kind to me.
We should give him Death Wish coffee. That's got like.
I'm just lucky I didn't get me fucking bag search. Sorry. Didn't get me bag search at the airport.
Again, what is up with you apologizing for swearing on the Unfiltered? I don't understand. You did it in the live video, and now you've done it on a second live video. Like, fuck. Oh,
it's in me makes me swear.
Yeah,
when you throw the F-bomb around. I mean, I'm the worst cussing, so.
Yeah, I am too. That's why we made it Unfiltered. I was like, I'm a sailor. No. They've come to expect it now, I hope, since July 4th. But that's not why we made this page, not just to cuss and drop the F-bomb. I mean, it can be dropped if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's okay. We're not going to shun you for it.
You know? Can't help it.
It does.
You know, Darren, we need to get you to start when we do these live chats. You need to talk like you're Jason Statham.
Well, how's he talk?
Boy, mate.
Right, darling. I'm going to kick the door down. He's got the worst American accent you've ever heard.
That makes me want to watch Crank tonight so bad. That was a good
bloody bloke. Do you know, he started in a very good movie, actually, called Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie. That is a
Go watch it. It's amazing. You've got something there for me. Chop.
I've actually never seen that.
You haven't seen that? You got to watch it. It's freaking hilarious.
So Tim is mad at me already for the amount of movies I haven't watched, and if I probably add that to the list of things he's mad at me for not seeing, because there's a lot that I haven't seen.
Oh man, I'll let you borrow my external hard drive.
Yeah, cool.
As well.
Is that filled with movies?
Oh yes, very much so.
Cool.
To include, I mean, just all over the place of movies.
Okay. Movies aren't my favorite thing in the world, but I'm not opposed to watching movies. I like to read more than I like to watch movies nowadays.
Yeah. I know. I mean,
British gangster movies is one of my favorite movie genres. They're very good. There's a very good TV series recently called Gangs of London. Go and watch it.
Gangs of London.
Very good. Very violent, but very good.
Good.
That's always fun.
There is a scene in it which just blows you away. And it's just great. No, the whole thing's amazing. It's just such a good TV program. Nice. There's the woman from Game of Thrones is in it. The one that gets murdered in the at the Red Wedding. Can't remember her name. The old Stark's missus.
I have no clue who you're talking about. I have not watched a single episode ever of Games of Thrones.
Well, where you been, mate?
I haven't watched a single episode of Game of
I-
Thrones.
They use
either,
the
Daryl,
C
so
word
I'm
all the
with you.
time in it, and there's loads of shagging in it. So
It doesn't. You know, I like if I watch like ones like
it's
multiple
HBO, isn't it? Shagging in it all the time.
Breaking Bad. That was a
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
that's
was
pretty
great.
cool.
Yeah, that
Um,
was a great show.
The Walking Dead. Walking Dead's always
Yeah,
been my
that's all right
Haven't
until you
seen
get
it.
to the later series, and it's sort of lost itself.
and especially since like the cast is British because I don't know why, but it's easy for the British to do a Southern accent.
Yeah,
Thank you. I have said that for so long. Like the British are excellent at our Southern accents.
Yeah, it's like half the cast is British.
yeah, they are. Yeah.
So
The guy that plays the lead role, Rick, he was
Rick,
in
yeah.
a lot of British TV programs, that nobody's even heard of, nowadays.
Mhm.
But I remember him.
I'm not familiar. I didn't know he was British either. See, this is
Oh
all
yeah,
news
he's
to
British.
me.
See, my before like The Walking Dead, my exposure for the most part to the British Queen's English was from Monty Python movies,
Yeah,
I
of
love
course.
Monty
Yeah.
Python.
which are all time classics.
Yeah, yeah. They are funny, yeah. But do you know
And-
what? I've always been partial to an American spoof.
Oh,
An American spoof.
Naked Gun and
oh
and
yeah, I love the
Hot
Indian movies.
Shots and all of those types of films. They kill me.
Oh
They're
yeah,
so fun. So fun.
I'm seeing a lot of Hot Fuzz memes in our chat right now, and I'm really loving it.
I was just thinking that too. That's a
I'm
funny movie. I love that
That
one.
is good.
Well,
Yeah.
me and
that's very
Darren tried to get through that Paul movie that had Seth Rogen as the alien in it, and the two British guys, Simon Pegg and what's his name, Nick Frost.
good. Yeah,
What-
Nick Frost.
What's the name of the movie?
Paul. It's
I've
got
never heard
Seth
of it.
Rogen plays an alien that escapes from Area 51, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are on a vacation to the United States to go to Comic-Con, and they're alien enthusiasts, and all of a sudden an alien comes across and joins them for their trip across the United States. It's a very fun movie to watch. I
Is it?
highly
Yeah,
recommend
it's good. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Well, you look at like Shaun of the Dead. That's a classic.
I love Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it's just such a funny movie. And
Yeah, it's great.
Tyler just said, "The heck with it, I'm out."
No,
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
I'm joking.
I want to fix something real quick. I'll be right back, gentlemen.
Yeah, no problem. So you said it's raining there. Well, it's raining here
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
just drizzly and horrible. It's just miserable.
Well, this is a crazy winter so far because
Yeah, I mean, it's very warm for you guys.
Yep.
Is there a reason behind that?
well, I mean, if you listen to
You've
one
got
side,
snow up in Gettysburg.
they might call it global warming, but the Earth has always been, changing ever since the recorded. So
Yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm still working.
It was supposed to be a nasty winter, is what they were saying, but so far,
Thing is, it might come back to bite you yet.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Sharp series. Yeah, Sharp was good.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's quite old now though. But I mean, Sean Bean was in that. He was good.
Mm.
Napoleonic. They're part of the Sharps, the 95th Rifles,
Okay.
very famous regiment. In
Very
actual
cool.
fact, I've got a monument that's down the road from me to the founder of the 95th Rifles.
Oh, no
Really?
kidding. That's cool.
Yeah, I'll go down there one day. I did actually take some pictures once. I'll put them up somewhere.
Huh.
But yeah, the guy that founded the regiment.
Well, one thing Darren and I talked about touching on tonight was just some of what we're reading at the moment. And I've been devouring books since I've been off.
Oh God, yeah.
Man, I'm going through a book a day almost at this rate. The main
Yeah,
one
I
I'm reading
fucking
now,
feel
and I
that bad.
posted this. Hey, when you have nothing to do all day, man, that's. Well, I've been exploring the Titanic pretty religiously too. In fact, I was up until about 3:30 in the morning last night, which I'm feeling that still.
Oh yeah.
I realized like at 26, I should be like, I'm okay with staying up till 3:30. I am not okay with staying up until 3:30 because it was so tough to get up this morning. But there's a new game out. Well, and again, it's not even a game. I need to stop calling it a game. It's an interactive experience on the Titanic, and it is a virtual reality walkthrough with a mock-up of how the ship would have actually looked. And the folks behind Honor and Glory have done meticulous research into making this look as it would have in 1912.
That's cool.
It's amazing. So, like, I mean, they've got it down to like the paneling and the wood grains that are in the paneling. It's that detailed. And for someone who has been enthusiastic about the Titanic since '97 when the movie came out, you know, it's one of the first things I've ever seen in my entire life. Being that
Has
young.
it got Kate Winslet with her boobs out?
No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, I was looking for that room. I was like, so where's that room at? And it wasn't there.
It's a good. So
Yeah, I didn't
I
find
remember
that
you
one.
said the other night when you were talking about how people used to say, you know, oh, the Titanic sucks when you were like
Stunk.
little.
Yeah, it stunk. Yeah,
It stunk.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a good thing.
That's what I thought she said on ET, because the lady didn't speak and pronounce her words right. And she's like, no, Titanic stunk. And I'm like, it stunk? Well, no shit. It looks like it's got barnacles hanging off of it. I think it would stink.
It's a good thing that you weren't born when Pearl Harbor came out, because that one did suck. I mean, they even made fun of it in was it Team America?
It probably
It
was.
was.
Team America made fun of everything.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was a great movie. But
that was a
man,
funny one.
yes, it was. But you know, this game that again, I'm calling it a game, but this program they have released, which is called Honor and Glory, is to me the future of interpretation when it comes to digital history, because they're doing it just like even War of Rights. People are like, oh, you're just playing a shoot 'em up game. I said, no, dismissed. That's not exactly what it is at all. If it's just a shoot 'em up, then we're not even going to conversate. This is not just a shoot 'em up. These guys have taken the time, and you're dismissing the people that have put the hours into making this game and making this something that can be used as a resource for us in the future. And in that, they're using it to scale. They're researching what the landscape would have looked like, the undulating terrain of Antietam. You know, this is just me referencing War of Rights, of course. But the game itself has really proven to be something that can be used as an interpretive resource, I think, because you can really look at this, and these are mapped out to scale. They have all the historic features on the battlefield, and they even have all the historic regiments and companies even now fighting in this thing. Titanic Honor and Glory is the same exact way. You're not with 1,000 people on the ship sinking, which I actually find better, because we're not here to glorify people losing their lives. No, and I think it's great because what they're doing is showing you the ship sinking and how it would have sank. So you're looking at the human error without the humans being a part of this problem in the interpretive tool. You're able to see how the ship sinks. You're able to kind of get the idea for in a more focal point, if you will, on the actual damage that was done to the ship, and seeing what a flooding, sinking ship actually would look like without the added human.
Yeah, because you don't need to show the human, that part of the human aspect. It's just like, and you may
know
have
what happens when you touch water like that.
In reenacted. I've read about it a lot, so I can't speak because I don't do reenacting, but I've read a bunch of ones where they're talking about how you should depict death on when you're doing a reenact. And most people are like, just lay on the ground or just sit down, just so people can see. But you don't need, people are talking about doing moulage, and you don't need to show the gory side of it. All you got to do is,
and that's what I like about it.
Yeah,
it's really because that takes away from the structural damage and the infrastructure of Titanic itself sinking. We just focus so much on the human aspect of it, which is okay because it is a human story. We lose a lot of lives on the Titanic, but we're like, what about the ship itself? What about the 14,000 people it took almost 4 years to build this thing?
Oh yeah.
Let's look at all their work sinking to the bottom of the Atlantic and
on its first
on its maiden voyage, it's sinking. So that's what I appreciate the attention to detail that they have focused on. And I really think that, this is the future of talking history. We have these virtual reality apps, games now that we can use and really learn something from. And I think Honor and Glory is just another addition to that wealth of what we have. And so I'm trying to push that as hard as I can. And of course, right now we're only on a demo. It's taken them a long time to get this game even to the point where we're at demo 401. Funny story, Titanic was named Ship 401 before it was named the Titanic. Olympic, her sister ship, was 400. And I don't know, maybe somebody can tell me this. I have not found anything to say that Britannic was 402. It could be 403. There could be another ship that was 402. But there was just the numbers that they were. But the demo itself that's out now really focuses on showing you some of the first class boarding areas. And I've been walking through and seeing some of the ship, like going to the squash court, seeing the B deck level, going on to A deck, going on the boat deck. Isidore Strauss, which many of you may not know Isidore Strauss. The Strauss family, the two Strausses that were on there, Isidore and Ida Strauss, are actually owners of Macy's.
Didn't know that.
Department store. Yeah, so your Macy's Day Parade and the bougie shopping at Macy's that can be done, that was all because of Isidore and Ida Strauss. Isidore and Ida Strauss went down with the ship. They didn't come home. Many people don't know that. And it's like Milton Hershey was supposed to be on the Titanic. I didn't know that until recently. He didn't go because he decided to go on another ship, or some say it was a sore throat that prevented him from going. JP Morgan was supposed to be on the Titanic. And this game highlights that because you walk past all these staterooms and all these, and they have like individual names of almost everybody in first class who was supposed to be on this ship or was on this ship. You're able to go in their stateroom. You're able to go into their sitting rooms, their bathrooms, and seeing what it would have looked like at the time of 1912 of the ship sinking. It's been an incredible experience so far, a very sobering experience too. I plan to go live with it in the new year. I didn't do it today. I almost did, but I realized that they are talking about releasing the second part of Demo 401 on New Year's Day. So I'm thinking like first stream of the New Year's, let's do a full-on demo of the Titanic and walk through. And they even have a sinking demonstration that's supposed to come out in the new year as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very fun ride, and I want you guys to be a part of that too. So I've been sending some messages to the folks that run the developing group at THG and might be doing some really cool stuff.
So, can I ask you a question? How have they managed to piece together what it looks like? Obviously, I know.
So deck plans, original mappings by Thomas Andrews, which we know Thomas Andrews is the what they would call the guarantee group later on once the ship's starting to build construction. So Titanic is a English ship, not built in England, believe it or not. It's built in Harland and Wolff shipyards in Belfast, Ireland. Ireland. Let's go. Right. So that's awesome. Thomas Andrews is just the brainchild behind Titanic. I'm going to dismiss Bruce Ismay here when saying that, even though he is the man that signs the contract and has the Daddy Warbucks money, Thomas Andrews is really the guy that puts Titanic into fruition. And he goes down with the ship, spoiler alert, in case all of you already know this. I mean, if you know Titanic, you know Thomas Andrews doesn't live. But his story and the Guarantee Group story is fascinating, and I'm not going to dive any further into the Guarantee Group and Thomas Andrews because there are episodes coming in that in 2022.
I was about to reference the Titanic movie. Is he the guy that walks out with the plans and slaps them down?
When Rose is like, Mr. Andrews, I saw the iceberg and I see it in your eyes. Tell me what's going to happen. This ship will sink, Rose. Yeah, that's Thomas Andrews.
Okay, I figured as much.
Mm-hmm. And he's just so important to this story, and it's exciting to like go back in 20. So again, I became obsessed with Titanic in 97. So I'm revisiting the entire Titanic as someone who's now studied history for a while. And it's like rediscovering this ship all over again, if you will.
You need to get out to Vegas.
I know, I've seen the expeditions out there.
Oh, man.
Like, I have to.
We didn't go in and see the whole thing, but like even on the entrance to it, it has some models and artifacts in cases. And I was like, man, that's just awesome.
There's one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee that actually has the front half of the ship sitting in port. Well, it's not the front half of the ship, obviously, but a mock-up, and it's a museum you can walk through, and that's cool. That's like bucket list item.
There's currently an one running in London at the moment, and it's running till February, so I might go up there just for pilot's sake.
Please do. I would love to see that because it's hard to get to Tennessee right now. But I'm really, one of these days I'm just gonna say F it. I'm gonna fill up my tank of gas and bring a couple more tanks of gas in my pocket. And I'm gonna drive all the way to Pigeon Forge just to sleep in my car and go to the Titanic.
Well, where's
Museum.
Pigeon
I will do
Forge
that.
in Tennessee in relation to like Knoxville and
That's
Chattanooga?
actually a really good question. Let me find out.
Is it near Shiloh or
Oh,
Stone?
now you're talking about a whole week's trip.
I know. I that's what I'm saying. I mean, I tell you, so that's what like got me re-addicted to the Civil War was driving from California out here to Virginia.
Pigeon Forge is closer to Virginia than Knoxville is.
Wow.
It's Eastern Tennessee.
Okay.
Well, that must be a long
Mid Tennessee,
drive, though.
Eastern Tennessee. It's a long drive from where I'm at. Yeah.
No,
So-
long drive from you
What's
saying
it?
down
It's
from
over towards the border, like with Chattanooga and that.
Still further away from that. Pigeon
Wow.
Forge is closer to Gatlinburg. And
Okay. Hey, you go to Gatlinburg, go see Dollywood.
Well, we'd have to go through North Carolina. Actually, Pigeon Forge is pretty far down. It's on it's close to let me get back in here again. Okay, maps, come on. Here we go. Highway 321 would be what we would take to get there.
Probably easiest to go down the 95, hit the 40, go across, and then hit the.
Yeah. 321 from 441 going yeah, we can take 81 down too.
Oh, 81 is
I hate
such a
81.
long,
I know.
long highway.
81 is a pain in the ass. But yeah, Pigeon Forge is on the bucket list for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a lot of stuff on the bucket list, and in the future, hopefully we can all go together.
That would be awesome.
Imagine that.
That would be cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cavalry.
And then, Cavalry on the road to Cold Harbor. Cool. Where's that at, John? There's another Titanic museum in Branson, Missouri.
Hmm.
They're going to maybe go all over the United States just to find Titanic.
Branson, Missouri also has, if I remember, the original Bass Pro Shop.
Really?
Yes. That's like their main headquarters now, I think.
That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we wanted to talk about our books here, and I have 3 here that I'm going to be reading going into 2022, so I figured I'd
Grab
get them out.
My tablet, my book.
There you go. There's your book.
Yeah.
And Malvern Hill is the gun in the background.
Okay. Now you've got the 7 Days book, right? You were telling me.
Yeah, I just got it. I haven't even cracked it open yet. Which is that the Fredericksburg one?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it's our friend Chris Mikowski, so of course it's awesome. But yeah, loving it. This one is one that I found at my bookstore, and I don't know how I didn't know it existed because I should be plugged enough to where I know this goes out. But it's called Fighting the Second Civil War, A History of Battlefield Preservation and the Emergence of the Civil War Trusts.
Nice.
There's a lot of familiar names in there too, sir. So if you're interested,
There's
in
a
checking
great
this out,
one about the preservation efforts that they did for Second Manassas back in the 80s and 90s because, like, what's that? Lee's Hill, Stewart's Hill in Second Manassas. They were going to slap up. Disney was going to slap up an amusement park behind that.
that's covered in here.
Yep.
Yep.
There was, and even now there's a big fight going on out there. They're wanting to put in solar
Like they were doing out here.
an engine. They're wanting to put in a giant server hub building behind where Pageland Road goes up. Like, you know how you have to get to the Second Manassas Visitor Center, you go up Pageland Road, and it's that that weird parking lot. They want to a bunch of the people bought the properties in the past, and then now they're like, oh well, let's sell it and make all this money, which it's going to destroy the view shed. But I mean,
It is.
there's only so the problem is one thing you run into that conflict of if they originally talked about closing the road that goes through what's that 29 and closing it on both sides, but then you lose some of that battlefield aspect because now people don't pass through. Like if I'm passing through a battlefield and I got time, I'm going to pull over and check it out, even if I've been there before.
Right.
So I mean, it's one of those you can't win
No.
type aspects. But yeah, when you get done reading that, you got to let me look at it, peruse it.
Oh, it's on your way, man. Absolutely. And then second, after that, which will probably be tomorrow, Seizing Destiny.
You're gonna love that book.
I know. I'm excited
In fact,
for it.
hold on for a second. I'll reference a page number in there that you gotta read at.
Okay, I know. I'd be happy to read it.
I just got done reading it. Damn it. What's this?
Darren, you've got Seizing Destiny too. That should be something you
I
look
certainly
into reading.
have.
It is a great read. It's great read.
And it's signed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we got signed. You did. Yours was signed too, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm going to get onto that definitely. But for me, next
This is the best time of year to read it.
I'm going to be reading up about the Mud March because I've got a very special guest coming on a podcast soon.
You do.
To talk to me about it.
You
Mr.
do.
Frank O'Reilly himself will be coming on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So we're going to be discussing the Mud March. But I'm not actually.
I heard he knows quite a bit about the Mud March too.
I'm having a rest for the Christmas period, but I will start delving into stuff again soon. But I got a lot of books yesterday. I went to see my mother, and she got me some Christmas presents, and she got me some pretty good little books. But one of the best ones is this one that I got. It's this tiny little book. It's called The Royal Military Canal, and that's literally up the road from me.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, obviously, not a lot of people know about it. Nowadays, it's like a really nice little, it looks like a little river, and you go and walk along it. But the reason it was put there was to stop against invasion from Napoleon. So it runs 28 miles along the south coast of England, and it was hand dug. And they literally a pick and a shovel and a wheelbarrow into a cart, and then the earth was taken away.
Damn.
And they did that in 12 months. Can you imagine that?
Tyler, reference page 118. The one that has the map in it, and that's where I was
Church.
referencing.
I was browsing through this the other day because when we were talking about 118 does not have a map in it in the book.
Maybe right before, a couple pages before, a couple after. Mine's an electronic copy.
Let's see.
Should be the chapter 5.
Heartwood Church Raid,
Yep.
126. Would it be this page?
Yep.
Yeah. So is that where we're going to be venturing?
Potentially. There's a couple spots I've been looking at where they're developing and just slamming down more houses.
Of course.
It's going to be.
That's frustrating, isn't it?
It is.
I see the 2nd Virginia Cavalry, which are near and dear to my heart, actually, as well as the 16th Pennsylvania's involved. No kidding.
Yeah.
Am I gonna have to run and go and get the book now just so I can see what you're looking at?
You might want it. It's pretty
good because I wanted to run and grab a cigar anyways for this chat. So let me go.
Okay, well, we can pause this.
Yeah, give us 2 seconds, folks. We're having it's like an early New Year's party. That's what it is.
So what page did you say, Daryl? Sorry.
I think it's 126 in the hardcover book. Oh, while you two chat, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab something from my one of my what I refer to as my gun room, but it's also my relic room. I didn't bring this with me on the night we all met up, but I figure you all will get a kick out of it. I'll be right back.
I'll be interested to see if we'll be here for you.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to this book. Actually, I must admit. But again,
I am too. I think it's like a perfect time of year.
Prioritizing stuff. I find it really difficult to, and I can't read a book as fast as what you do, and it's finding the right time to actually read it.
And I don't expect a lot of people to be able to read books.
I wish I could read quicker. I really do, but I just don't. I'm not a fast reader.
I'm not either. But the thing is, I have the time for it right now.
I just don't.
School, I'm not teaching, so
I don't have the time, which is an issue sometimes. But
it's okay, Dad.
Most of my reading gets done at tea time at work.
Tea time,
which is not long. Once you've got a coffee and you've grabbed it, you've lost 10 minutes. Walk in there.
Yeah. How long do y'all have for tea time?
We normally have a good half an hour,
Good half hour.
Yeah, but it's still not long enough to. Sometimes you might just about get 15 minutes in reading,
But yeah, I think you're really going to enjoy that. I've been browsing through it a little bit. Of course,
So you've browsed a little bit of it. So I can't. So Chris actually had a hand in finishing the book. Is that correct? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, he's in fact on top of the page there, on top of the front of the book. You look, it's Al Connor and Chris Mikowski.
With Chris Mikowski, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think he did more than just finish that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So he edited it and he put quite a bit in himself.
I'd say so.
My camera looked frozen.
Your camera is off on our end, friend.
I just turned it back on.
Actually, I forgot to tell you when I was with you. Obviously, the day I went out with Chris, we went to the Sedgwick Monument. Where he was shot.
Yeah,
that was really cool part of the battlefield, and I only literally took one photograph out there. I didn't film or anything, but the story behind him, the way he gets killed, is quite interesting.
They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance?
That's what I mean, yeah. And then all of a sudden, bam,
They hit an elephant at that distance, didn't they?
Yeah, that was...
Also, from what I understand, it was a smoothbore as well that killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again,
I don't know about that. Because at the range that they were shooting, plus the fact that at that point of the war...
Yeah, that's the thing. It was a long range, wasn't it? It wasn't
long range. And obviously, my camera's not working. I'm going to have to pop off and pop back in, but
you're good.
Long range. My camera's working?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're good. We got to pop back in. That's fine.
Yeah. Long range. And also, by that time of the war, so it's the screwed up thing that the South had more rifled muskets than the North did up until about spring of 1864.
Yeah.
There was, I'm talking in the Eastern theater. We want the Western theater. That's a whole nother,
of course,
animal. Yeah. But
do they not? I've always wondered. They must have picked up Springfields when they got dropped.
They did.
Oh, sure.
But the thing is, didn't they have different size caliber of bullets in the South?
Okay. Well, let me pop off and I'll pop back in. And we'll talk about that.
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm interested in that. I want to
know.
Yeah,
we can.
Because that's the conception is obviously we know that the South had a different way of manufacturing stuff, and some of it wasn't up to standards like the North was it?
Yeah, be right back.
All right, buddy.
They mass produce it in factories in the North, don't they? In the South, some of their factories they're still doing it by not making bullets by hand, but it's a different kind of manufacturing, isn't it?
It is.
Is my thing still not on?
It's not.
What the hell? Okay, let me. I will be back.
You're good, buddy. Take your time. We're not going anywhere. I promise. Darren and I live on this thing sometimes.
I must admit as well, I want to give a little shout out to Savvy's BT because
Please
they do a good book, don't they?
Everything I have by Savvy's BT is
Savvy's
top
BT, yeah.
tier. I will say.
I do like their books.
I do too. They're my favorite publisher.
Yeah. So Ted, if you're watching one day, you do a good job, mate. Keep it up.
He does a phenomenal job.
They've got some serious stuff coming out.
You're working now, good sir.
Yeah, I had to restart the thing. Okay, good. So this is the funky thing about the Civil War and what you were talking about specifically about the different bullet sizes and bullet issues. So the South predominantly used English Enfield. Manufactured Enfields, the 1853, but
P53, yeah.
Any captured muskets were sent to a depot, or they were supposed to be sent to a depot, refurbished, and then they would be reissued out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was a lot of times, like if you were on the battlefield, and I've got a smoothbore musket, and there's a dead soldier in front of me that had a musket, or rifle musket, I should say. I'm going to take his ammo pouch, his musket, and I'm going to leave my smoothbore because then that puts me at an advantage. So that's what happened a lot in the South. Now, what would happen though also is, especially in Richmond was one of the big depots to do this. If there was damaged rifles, so the barrels damaged by the muzzle or something like that, they would take them and they would what they were called was razzied Springfields, and I guess I had to look it up. So the term razzied goes back to the early 1800s, dealing with ships where they would remove some of the upper decks to make them lower. So kind of the same principle. They would take that damaged Springfield musket, damaged part of the barrel, and then cut the stock so that it would then be, but shorter gun, but it may not be a rifle. It might, they might only have to cut off 2 inches of the barrel or so, something like that. So, but going back to the caliber portion of it, so British, most of the Confederate Enfields were from like three big main manufacturers that also subcontracted for the English government. London Armory Company was one of them. There's a Birmingham Small Arms, I want to say, was another one. And that's why if you look at a lock plate, you'll see it will show on a Confederate gun, it'll show the crown, but it doesn't have that VR.
No, that's right. This has Enfield, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the VR behind it because that's the acceptance mark into British service, I want to say. I'm not 100% on that.
No, but also what I understand about when it comes to the Enfield is obviously the Britain had a lot left over from the Crimean, and they just fucking packed up all the crap ones and sent them over.
Well, so that's what those were. So those weren't P-53s. Okay. Those were the Brunswick. Right. Okay. So this is why there's such a disparity between quality between the North and the South. The South won; they had their people over there first, and as soon as the war was declared, they started buying up everything they could get their hands on, the good stuff. By the time the Union had sent purchasers over there, I want to say it was like a month or two after Fort Sumter. That's a long time, really, when you really think about it. If you're trying to get the quality items versus what's left, and that's what happened. That's why, because besides those English-made subcontractor muskets, you had all these cottage industries that were making Enfields for, little weird, you had like the Belgians were making them, but the issue is they weren't parts compatible. Like where I could a British made musket, I could take a part out of it and put it in another gun and not have to adjust it for fit at all. It would work. Those other muskets didn't have that same quality control, or they were hand fit. So if I've got a hand fit parts and a part breaks in mine, I can't just grab a part off that other gun. It's a hand fit part, especially when you're talking the stuff inside the lock plate. So that was a big issue. The other issue was the Union had standardized on 58 caliber, which nominally is 580. If you were to measure the bore of a musket from the Civil War, they're all over the place, and depending on who made it and what time of the war it was made, though your bore variance could be big. The Confederacy, for the most part, set their bore diameter for their muskets at 5.77 because the Confederates actually made some of the British Enfield style bullets, the Burton balls. I want to say I'm not positive, but I want to say that's what they're called. And the Union never did. Any time I found Union in a Union camp where they cleared their muskets prior to going into camp. I found some Enfield bullets, but it wasn't. They were issued. So this was where I found them was a 6-corps camp.
Okay.
That, right off of White Oak Church Road. And I suspect it's from after Fredericksburg. Someone came back with a couple in their pouch or something like that, and
dropped a few.
Yeah, and then they loaded them for duty and fired them off because they're Enfield bullets. There's no doubt in my mind that's what they are. But
anyway, I like the fact that you bring up the fact that the Union or the federal government is late getting to these places to buy up the arms, because if you look at the beginning of the war in the West, those Union troops are really badly supplied and given, because I've read accounts where they even had flintlocks at that point at the beginning.
In the West, that applied on both sides. West,
because obviously, it's in the West, so it's harder to supply. But that what you're saying, that makes it seem more sensible. Obviously, all the stuff that's going to come into the country is going to be given to the Army of the Potomac first, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the West is going to be forgotten about.
Well, where the West actually made out was they got all their Henrys first. And
but it's easier to supply the Army of the Potomac when you're bringing
that was the main focus, is protecting Washington and taking Richmond. In the grand scheme of things.
We're using flintlocks in, the early part in the West, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like you look at Shiloh, there's reports of some units still having flintlocks. The problem with flintlocks as a whole, and just the problem with everyone bringing their own gun, come as you are type thing, is now that ordnance officer has to, okay, hey, what kind of musket do you have? Oh, a 32 caliber. Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I have to make those bullets. Oh, you've got a 45 caliber. Okay, well, so that's why, as much as possible, they tried to standardize on, for example, like 69 cal and 58 cal for the Union and 69. But I mean, even into the start of the Overland campaign, I mentioned that guy that had a relative in the Zouave unit. They had, I want to say there were Potsdam. Was it Potsdam muskets? Whatever they had some Springfields and then some foreign muskets. I want to say they're Belgian
And
or something
you
like
see a
that.
lot. You see a lot coming out of Harper's Ferry as well, though, don't you? And
Only up until up until it was
yeah,
captured. Once it was captured, all
it
the
didn't.
equipment
Yeah,
was taken down to Richmond or
yeah, that's
sent to
right. Yeah, but
Fayetteville.
there are older Harper's Ferries, isn't
Oh
there? Knocking
yes, yeah.
about like 1850s ones, you know.
Well, so Harper's Ferry, I mean, was made first. I want to say became a national armory in the 1820s. I think it might be a little
Mm.
earlier. I've read too many books and they all kind of blur together. But yeah, like the 1855 Springfield, the 1842 Springfield. They were made at both. Some of them were made in both locations, and then some of the types of muskets were only made at one or the other. And then after Harper's Ferry got taken, the Confederacy, before they were the Confederacy, after Fort Sumter, they seized Harper's Ferry and continued. So the Union tried to burn Harper's Ferry. They burnt most of the uh, weapon storage area, but the place where they put together muskets still had. They were able to. The Confederates, the Virginia militia that seized it, were able to put out the fires there, and so they had all these spare parts that they could then take and build into workable muskets. And most of them were of the, if I remember correctly, the 1855 Springfield design with the Maynard tape primer. And then they built out however many muskets they could complete with the parts on hand. Then whatever parts were left and the machinery was all sent to Richmond. Set up. Some of it was set up in Richmond. They began producing the Richmond musket, which which was a Springfield and all but name itself. And then some of the machinery was sent south to Fayetteville to start building the Fayetteville musket.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you could go down a
Springfield,
rabbit hole.
they must have been making muskets 24 hours a day once you really get into the war.
Well, the problem you run it. So from what I don't know about Richmond, but I know at least you got to remember you got to set up all the tooling and
Yeah.
you got to do all the stuff that goes into it before you can even start making a specific part for that musket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about all the little to the musket as a
Yeah.
whole, one big problem that Fayetteville had was they had a lack of. They had all the metal parts done for like a bunch of muskets, but they didn't have the wood stocks to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one big problem I've read that the Confederacy had was a lack of stocks, because you got to cure those stocks or they're going to warp or deform. I can't remember how many years like the wood's supposed to cure, but I know there's a whole process that went into that. So I started to tell you I went downstairs into my gun room and grabbed a little something.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Look at
My
that.
12
Look at
pound
that.
Union case shot projectile I dug at what is now a house on private property over by Chancellorsville.
Wow.
It was
That's not still live, is it?
So that came from
no.
the
See,
Battle of Chancellorsville.
I had to take it down to Richmond and get it drilled, but the powder inside it was still live and dry when I took it down there.
Hey, we have another unfiltered historian asking to join.
Come on in. The party's just started.
That's right. The party just started. Let me go ahead
Mate,
and
that's
send
very
that
impressive.
link.
So that was it, the Battle of Chancellorsville. Then,
Yeah. So
Chancellorsville.
I suspect it was fired.
Chancellorsville.
Chancellor. There you go. You said it right that time.
So I suspect it was fired because the fuse was all banged up and indented a bit, but it wasn't punched. So they probably fired it like they were trying to fire a solid shot. And from where I dug it to where the Union lines were, once they went back into their final V,
Mm-hmm.
only a couple, less than half a mile.
So, Daryl, I'm a little bit thick. So, what's a case shot?
Okay, so a case shot projectile.
What?
You know, are you familiar with solid shot?
Yeah.
I'll be right back, boys.
Solid shot,
That's
just
ball,
a solid,
yeah.
solid ball. Then you
Yeah.
had shell. A shell was the same thing, except it was hollow inside. They just packed it with gunpowder.
And it blew up on
Had
impact.
the time fuse. And the shell cracked and blew up. Well, case shot, what that was, so that was an improvement. Actually, that was developed by the British during the Napoleonics.
Mm-hmm.
So case shot, what they did was they took 69 caliber balls. So, for example, for this one here, they would take it, and before the fuse was installed, I do this. Before the fuse was installed, they would fill it with 69 cal round balls. Then they would pour into it a hot matrix. Like sometimes they used pine pitch, or they used like a sulfur matrix, and they would pour it in there to hold the balls all in place. Then what they would do is they would take a drill and drill down through the fuse hole and make the cavity that you could put the gunpowder in that would then get set off. And it would, it was designed to, so if I've got infantry here, I want that round to explode here, and then all those lead balls, rain down on top of them, and the velocity and the weight of that lead ball is what gave it its deadliness. Fun fact, mid-1862, the Confederacy was actually running out of lead. Mm-hmm. They actually had people scavenging on the battlefields, especially once the war had moved to Northern Virginia for Second Manassas and such, to recover as much lead as they could, because they didn't have enough lead to make both musket balls and case shot balls. What they started doing is they started filling their case shot projectiles with steel balls. Well, steel doesn't have the same mass as an equivalent sized lead ball. Steel's lighter. So it wasn't as effective. In that package, that little gift I gave you, there's a couple steel. There's a steel Confederate one, and then there's a lead case shot, just so you can see the difference.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is what baffles my mind about the Civil War. Is we all we think about is the armies and the fighting, but nobody actually thinks about logistics.
Where is the echo coming from?
Is it from me?
I don't know. I just heard echo.
Echo, 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 echo.
Echo, 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 echo.
It wasn't from me. I don't.
It's gone now.
I'm not hearing an echo.
Weird. There was echo
anyway,
for a
going back to
it.
it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right?
Oh,
so
logistics.
Nobody thinks about the people that are working 24 hours a day to produce these items. What about them? It's craziness.
What about the women at the Tredegar Iron? Where I think it was Tredegar, where there was that explosion in Richmond when they were working on the ammunition. That girl bored too far down into one of the shells and it explodes.
Well, working in an ammunition.
That's a dangerous.
That happened numerous times throughout the war.
It happened during World War II in England. World War I in England.
Like, people don't realize how much of a danger it is to make these armaments that we're sending out to troops on both sides, because they're exploding fast.
I've read a couple good books on the ordnance side of it, and they preferred women to work in because the smaller fingers could polish on the inside of the because these were rough cast in sand, right, and then milled and polished and everything. Well, women's had smaller hands, so they could kind of polish out some of the imperfections inside it.
So just talk us through the manufacturing process of one of them. So do they cast it first?
Yeah. So there's
Then it would be hand filled.
Think about it. There's three pieces to just the. I keep forgetting where my camera's at. Three pieces to the shell itself. You have your outer your shell casing, which, for example, on this one here is about half inch thick, maybe a little less than half an inch. You have your fuse, and then underneath your fuse, you also have a steel or brass plate that sits on that covers the powder chamber. So if this was hollow, you have your shell. Inside there is a powder chamber, and then surrounding that is that those case shot balls in that matrix. So the fuse, the Borman time fuse, is actually, it's a lead and zinc mixture, and it has a little powder train that runs around on the inside of it. Starts right here, and the powder, so if I punched it right here, that's 5 seconds. And then as the round's going down the barrel, the flames actually would wrap around, and it, as it's going down, because it's not a firm seal, because it's a smooth bore. And that's actually a problem they had with rifled guns, especially early war, was getting the fuses to ignite correctly if it was a time fuse. But as it's going down, the fuses wrap around, ignite that, and it's still in the barrel when that actually gets ignited. And then that it's a slow burning powder. It would burn until it gets over to this section right here of it. Let me get it up close. Where that little triangle is, there's a little part that would actually go down into the middle of the shell, and that powder would burn down into there and then ignite the main charge, which would cause it to go off. It was actually, so the Union developed it, and it was used the whole war. The Confederate fuses, and this is why you have a problem with on multiple battlefields where they don't allow the artillery to fire over the heads of troops, is because the Confederate Borman time fuses would blow out from the pressure or go off early. There's all kinds of problems. I've read a couple books on it.
Yeah, and I've heard of accounts at Gettysburg where they missed their targets because of that issue.
Well, that was actually something different. So early war, the Confederates were using a Borman type fuse. Well, again, they were having problems where the fuses either weren't going off, or they were going off early, or they were going off extremely early, like right outside the barrel of the gun. All in all, bad day for anyone that's in front of the gun.
That's a bad day, yeah.
Yeah.
God.
So what they started doing is they stopped using the Borman fuses, and they did one of two things. So for shells that were already set up for Borman fuses, they'd unscrew the fuse, drill a hole down the middle, and then use the older paper time fuses, just like what you see kind of like in like the Alamo movie. Well, that's a perfect example because in the remake of it that they did a few years ago, he pops out the time fuse, and you can kind of see how it went. It wasn't just like the Revolutionary War where you had a fuse stick out the top. It was almost like a slow match inside there, and they would just drill out the center, put that slow match in there, bang it down, and the same thing when the flames wrapped around it would ignite it and eventually cause it to detonate. They also developed a brass fuse that totally replaced it. Rather than drill out the Bormans, they just totally took it out and had a brass fuse adapter that went into certain types of shells. So all in all, it was a step back for Confederate artillery. What happened at Gettysburg is so when you get a new batch of ammunition, you need to test it. And now, modern days, that testing is done by the manufacturers of the ammunition. So, the government gets a new lot of 5.56 ammunition. It's already been tested by the manufacturer for muzzle velocity and all these other criteria.
Mm-hmm.
What that didn't happen during the Civil War. So when artillery, for the perfect example, when they would get a new batch of ammunition, a new lot of ammunition, they would take some out and they would test it, try and figure out a known distance and fire a few rounds and make sure it was bursting in the appropriate location. So Chancellorsville, Confederates had the ammo. Well, a lot of that was used up during the battle. They got a new batch of fuses. I can't remember whether it came from South Carolina or Georgia. But wherever it came from, they didn't have time to test that ammunition because they immediately went out on campaign. By the time it got up there, middle of June, they're starting to move out, and you're not going to just stop and crank off some 12-pound shells. So what happened is the fuses they got were actually burning slower. So, for example, 5 seconds on a fuse should burst at, call it 1,800 meters.
Look who it is.
How you doing, man?
Historian.
Say it's supposed to burst at 1,800 meters based on the firing tables that they had. Well, these were actually bursting at 1,800 and 1,850 or 1,900 feet. So they were burned in that 5 seconds. That fuse was actually burning slower, and that shell had already gone past whatever they were shooting at when it was supposed to burst either above or slightly before. And that's what happened at Gettysburg there. I've done a lot of reading about that, the failure of the Confederate artillery.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt my heart to hear. Hold on, the Confederate artillery.
The Confederate artillery was always the only battle where they ever achieved superiority over the Union artillery was Chancellorsville at Hazel Grove. Only battle where both sides had.
You have Confederates doing fucking cartwheels at Chancellorsville.
Well, no. By that I mean
succeeding. But I see what you mean.
Well,
that's the only place where there's some.
That's the only place where the number of Confederate guns that were actually engaged versus the Union guns, because like Fredericksburg, the Union guns weren't shooting during all those troop movements because they would be shooting way over at almost max range, and they were worried about hitting friendly troops. Confederate guns owned the battlefield there. I'm not saying they didn't.
Oh no, they absolutely
Confederate guns owned the battlefield in front of
Fairview.
Yeah, well, in front of Fredericksburg, but that was an unequal contest.
Right.
Only Confederate guns were shooting. When you look at Chancellorsville, you only had a small amount of there wasn't that many guns fighting against the Confederate guns at Hazel Grove, and Port Alexander was bringing in as many guns as he could. That place
they amassed 40 Confederate pieces.
Yeah,
on top of the captured Union guns that they have at Hazel.
The Union guns were also having to focus on two different directions. And
because you have Confederate infantry pouring out of the woods.
Once you shift from one threat and then try and shift back to the other, well, now I've got to reestablish, because fire superiority is such a big thing. If I gain fire superiority on an enemy that he can't maneuver, he can't do his job, that allows me to allow my infantry to be able to do their job without the threat. And the Union artillery, especially at Fairview and Hazel Grove, got suppressed, what we would call in modern days suppressed. They weren't able to effectively take on the Confederate artillery and the infantry at the same time, and eventually just got knocked off the field. They had to retire. They would have gotten wiped out. in my
It
opinion.
must have been. What was it like for you finding that? You must have thought it was Christmas.
I know you're the
You
first
found that?
person that touched that since a
I
I
almost,
know.
okay, so fun times. Friend had land, she had a house out by Chancellorsville, and she's like, "Yeah, come on over." Metal detector. My buddy had just got me into it, and hey, I invited two of her sons out. Hey, come on, you go with me. If we find bullets, you can have them. So we go out and we find a couple bullets for him and everything. And it's like, well, let's go. We'll go try up here. They had just cleared. They were clearing an area for where they were going to be slamming down the house, right behind her property. So we get up there, and so this is Chancellorsville. I know there's a lot of shell frag and there's all kinds of bullets and stuff. So anything that rang up pretty much at like a certain tone, I would dig. Rang up and it's iron. Okay, I'm gonna dig it. I'm digging. I'm this 8 inches down. Still not. I'm like, damn, it's deep. Dig down some more. Finally, I see part of a curve. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's a piece of shell frag. And I got my little shovel in, and I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't just part of a piece of shell frag. And I pull it out of the ground.
So that's got live ammo in it.
Well, yeah, exactly. My first thought was, what the hell am I going to do with a cannonball? Because one, I didn't know whether it was a live shell, whether it was a solid shot or case shot like it was. I didn't know what it was. All I knew was, this is a cannonball of some kind. Now I've got her son, two of her sons with me, and I'm like, man, if I get blown up or get them blown up, I'm going to hell in a handbasket, But so we call it a day. We take it back, and I pop off a piece. I'm knocking off some of the dirt, and I pop off the piece to where you can see the fuse. I'll have to post a picture up of it fresh out of the ground, and it was surreal then, because then it's like, okay, this thing is live. Now I had already done enough reading to know, so people freak out immediately. Oh my God, you've got, people find these all the time, all over Virginia, and in Maryland, and in Pennsylvania, and anywhere else there was a Civil War battle. These are actually not that uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
This, with gunpowder in it, if this still had full gunpowder in it, if treated correctly, is no more dangerous than anything else. Now, if I go stick this in a hot fire, yeah, that's going to be a bad thing. And people do stupid things like that,
They do.
But
just bore it out. Why not?
Well, so there's people that professionally drill these. Like the guy I had drill mine, he actually does. He was one of two big time shell diggers back in the 60s and 70s, and they wrote a great book on Civil War ordnance. He showed me how to actually drill a shell. Would I do it for someone? Depends on the type of shell. Yeah. My buddy, he found a Confederate parrot shell.
I was about to ask, how about a parrot shell? Would you drill that?
Yes. So his had, I'll post some pictures up on the page tonight of it. His had a time fuse too. Well, what happened? So for that parrot shell, when it came in, here's the shell. When it came into and it hit the ground before the fuse had burned, and it actually bent the shell, the fuse holder part, and must have pinched off the fuse from burning down and igniting their charge. What I did was I literally, was able to take a drill bit and just by hand and just with a pair of pliers drill down and get into the fuse, into the powder chamber. And then we flushed it out, got it all flushed out, and then I ran it through electrolysis to clean the rust off and everything. Came out looking beautiful. But would I do a case shot shell or a regular 12-pound shell? I don't know, because it is a different animal. I'd probably pay someone to do it for me, like I paid that guy to do it.
Well, Tim, first of all, Tim's here.
I'm sorry, Tim. I did not.
No,
you jumped
you're good.
in.
I just
said a single word. I didn't mean to take over.
Yo, you're good. You had a great conversation about that, and I appreciate your insight. But Tim, welcome to the stream, man. Happy New Year to you. We're about to be in our first full year. I mean, July 4th, so we got a little bit of ways before we go for full year. But our stream tonight is really reflecting on 2021 and what we've been through as the Unfiltered historian since July 4th, Darren's favorite holiday.
Right.
Yeah, right.
By the end of this, it will be.
Mm-hmm. Tim, what do you have to say, man? Welcome to the stream. We want to hear from you too. You are our chief historian. We have given Tim that he has earned that role. First of all.
Yeah, 100%.
Excellent with his knowledge on the battlefield.
100%.
He makes the battles come alive when we're there on the field.
Yeah.
Like when we were doing the talk around that rock ledge at Antietam, I mean, you can just see the battle. Like,
The camera
Apparently there was a dodgy,
I think the camera
there was a dodgy
drunk.
cameraman though.
Yeah, he was drunk.
The cameraman was dodgy.
He
Oh,
was.
was he drinking spiked tea?
He was.
No, that was fun.
It was a great time.
That since I was an undergrad, I guess 17 years ago now or so, that's always been kind of a special place. I mean, really, even before I ever saw the Park Service documentary there, which features the ledge a little bit, but you don't. It doesn't really, you get the impression from that video that they're, simply pointed straight ahead at the backs of the Louisianians. And then you get on the ground and you look at the maps and see where they were, and you find out that they were actually off to the right, which makes it even more easily understood how they were undiscovered, because if you're being shot in the back, where are you going to look? You're going to look right behind you, right? But there was no one there. They were off and to the left. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. So and Antietam makes it easy to tell those type of stories just because the landscape is still so pristine.
Right, you can still visualize it.
Awesome battlefield.
It is. And we all have to walk that last portion, as I call it, of the battlefield where Burnside's actually moving up that. Here, I'm going to use the U word again, the undulating terrain that he uses to get up to Sharpsburg. But
rolling terrain.
The rolling. I like undulating better. Undulating just sounds, it just comes out.
More dignified.
Yeah, exactly. More dignified.
I mean, the only other battlefield that really rivals Antietam in its level of preservation, in my opinion, is probably Shiloh. Just from what I remember of it. Unfortunately, April I'll be there for the
I hope to be with you, sir.
Nice.
You lucky man.
What, you mean to tell me you don't have your
that
plethora
footage.
of battlefields over there in England?
Oh, we got a lot of battlefields, but
Yeah, you got a lot. At Torrington. I know I'm hyper focused on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll knock Normandy out this year too.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I want to get to the Eastern Theater of World War II.
If you make it this far over the channel.
Unfortunately, while I'm a federal employee, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I'm a contractor, so I feel your pain.
I mean, fortunately, there are tools that when we were growing up that you never had. I mean, today you can go to Google Street View and go through Stalingrad and stuff and see some of the sites like Pavlov's house.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Mamiev,
Kurgan,
the big, yeah. Well,
so,
I'd love to see like some of that, but also even like Finland, get up into from the Winter War would just be amazing.
Who's that one sniper? Hagen, I forget the deadly. They've written books about him.
Yeah.
Sammy
Simo.
something.
Simo.
Yeah, Simo.
Yeah, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Yeah,
That guy's an incredible story. If any viewers haven't read about this, just look up Finnish sniper winter war, and he's the only one.
Yeah.
The guy was crazy. It was literally a nightmare for the Soviets. So,
Iron
which is
sights.
interesting because when you're reading history, I don't know if I'm the only one. You know, say there's a conflict that you may or may not have a direct, relation to, right? You always find yourself I find myself, it's kind of like I can't help but you're pulling for a side sometimes. However many times I've, no offense, Darren, no matter how many times I've read about Culloden, right? I'm secretly pulling for the Scots, right? Despite knowing the result.
English, of course.
But
colonize
they were
everything.
never-
Let's
But there's
trade
also
somebody
something
else.
with like the
freedom!
there's also like the losers, right? Like
The thing is, you like to side with the underdogs, don't you?
Except, well, there are exceptions. Like I've never once. I know this is probably also against the grain in England. I don't pull for the Anglo-Saxons at Hastings. So
No.
maybe that's because I've confirmed.
You do have that Viking blood, like we've discussed before. The Norman blood.
Well, yeah. So, so yeah, and if I all of a sudden found out I'm like directly descended from Harold, that would change things, but I'm not. So, or at least I haven't confirmed it.
He usurped the throne anyway, didn't he? So he deserved to be kicked off it.
He did. I think one of the interesting things about that one, like when you were doing your Hastings talk, people forget that Harold had literally just fought a rather significant, huge battle, like a month earlier.
Bridge, yeah. And they marched them all the way back down, and then. But again, the disadvantage is not having the mounted cavalry.
Yeah.
If you have that, you're going to win.
Especially in the Middle Ages.
Yeah,
I mean, only for centuries, for millennia, actually, the side that was able to move fastest and with as much size would inevitably win. The Romans won as much because they were better trained, had often more discipline, but also the size of their formations, and you're using these bulk and this mass. Well, what's heavier than a mass of mounted men?
Yeah.
So there's
fast.
that.
They were fast at what they were doing. Bam.
I mean, and then
it still applies to modern day.
Throughout, that's what I was going to say. Throughout history, that mass held sway, and then you get to 1914, and there is no mass, and
there is nothing. They just
couldn't
sit there
figure.
And look at each other.
And
sit there and slaughter each other.
It's pretty much it. So
the whole war of maneuver ended after, was it the Battle of the Mons? What was the
no, because they go from Mons. They go from Mons all the way down to the Marne, and then after the Marne. After the Marne, people forget about that. They just think, the Marne immediately, then it's trench warfare. It took almost 2 months, and what happened is the Allies would flank to the left, try to get around the German flank. The Germans would block them, then they'd move to their right to get around the Allies' left, and they did that until they hit the water and they couldn't go anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, they basically dug in, and then people were like unimaginative attacks. And I'm like, well, if there is no end to the line, what are you going to do? It's a frontal attack. And people say, it's so similar to the Civil War. And I'm like, well, at least they're trying to spread out as much as they can, right? But they have the same problems. Yes, they had telecommunications of a sort. They'd run lines and stuff, but those lines could be cut. They had the same command and control issues that the Civil War armies would have. I mean, people, they acknowledge it. Like, why was Civil War combat indecisive? And they'll say, training. Yes, that's part of it. You know, they maybe shot 5-6 targets before ever going into a battle. But I think the biggest reason it was indecisive was that how do you control, you know, one attack on one position is never going to do it. Spotsylvania is the perfect example, right? So they Upton does his attack and Mott's supposed to attack to the left. You can see from Upton's attack where Mott was, yet they couldn't coordinate these two forces that were within eyesight of each other.
And the sound too. You got the acoustic shadow playing a whole major role in this.
And even if you don't have the shadow, you've got the overwhelming noise. You know, all the guns firing, all that. It overwhelms senses.
Yeah,
which makes some attacks in World War I all the more impressive. Like the Meuse Argonne. I don't know if you know this. More shells were expended in the day bombardment or in the bombardment prior to the infantry going over the top at the Meuse Argonne on 26 September 18. More shells were fired that day than were fired in the entirety of the Civil War. And people also forget that was really an artillery war. So if you're an artillery buff, that's really interesting.
And I can also
they say that more artillery rounds were fired that did not explode in World War I than were fired in total in World War II. So it's just a staggering amount of. That's why there's entire areas of France where you can't go.
Still can't
those
go.
guns could be heard on the south coast of England where I live. You could hear them. You know, that's.
So I'm an artillery guy by trade, and a lot of the stuff that was developed started during World War I got us to where we are at now, like fire direction. You know, back then you would literally send your request to fire at a target via carrier pigeon. Now we can pick up the radio and do that call for fire, and it's all good. But stuff like, I mean, there's so many developments that realistically, right around the time of World War I, and then progressing, is where modern artillery came of age.
Well, the biggest innovation in World War I, in my opinion, as far as the guns go, were the recoil systems.
Yeah,
because unlike the Civil War, where, and Tyler knows this from the gun crew, when you fire a howitzer or fire a cannon and it recoils back 6 feet, you're not going to get that gun to literally the exact position that it was in. You could get close, but the ability to absorb the recoil of the gun and have the gun go back exactly in the position. So the next round, if well, in the artillery world, we call it probable error in range and deflection, right? So that's always going to happen. But aside from that, you're going to get that round from World War I, generally from World War I on, as close to where that last one was as the elements will allow. I mean, it's going to, for all intents and purposes, be in the exact same area unless you make an adjustment. So it's really interesting. I mean, and artillery was, I think I read somewhere, and if anyone can correct me, please do, 80% of all casualties in World War I were inflicted by the artillery arm, and pretty close to that in World War II.
No, I've never heard that one. I would believe it in the World Wars, just especially like World War I, where it was more static and just the volume of artillery. You fire enough rounds at a target, eventually you're going to hit something. So,
yeah, the Brits, would complain to us in World War II that the American infantry solution was to make contact with the enemy, hunker down, and then call for fire, either artillery or aircraft. Yep. And the Americans were like, "Yeah, why are we going to waste our lives when we can?"
Well, there was
rely on our superior firepower.
Right.
The Pacific, you actually had that same kind of issue where the Marines, when they conducted their amphibious landings, occasionally you would have an Army division attached, or vice versa. A combined landing, and the Marines a lot of times would just And looking back at the tactics, you didn't really have a choice because, again, you're attacking an island. There's not a whole lot of places you can go to maneuver around, especially call it 1943 on when the Japanese started really digging in and making those islands fortifications. But, the Marines would just keep hitting, pounding away. The Army would pull back some and just try and hammer it. And it caused a lot of heartburn with, if a Marine unit's trying to assault on one spot and the Army unit pulls back and hits an area with artillery, well, then the Japanese could reinforce one way or the other based on the situation. Whereas if they were getting hit from both sides or from two different sections, they might not have that flexibility. Yeah. I mean, what was I reading about World War One? Well, World War One, I want to say it was, what was the one the main British battle where they fired artillery at the area for like a whole week before the
Somme.
The Somme. Yeah, I'm not as well read on World War One as I am World War Two and such, but
which is a shame. I've noticed that the more I get into World War One, the more I find that there's, I won't even say it's. I don't know if it's because America was in it for a relatively short period. I mean, every now and again, you'll hear people in pop or in culture accuse America of being late in World War II as well. And I'm like, what do you mean late? We were there for 4 years.
Relatively early in World War II. Yeah,
I mean,
if you think that
compared
the
to
war
World War I,
started
relatively
in
early.
39, England, France, Poland, they had been fighting it since 39. So I understand that aspect, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well, but not in the Pacific. So same people who accuse us of being late are also the same ones who will also ridicule us and credit the Soviets and say, oh, the Soviets got in the war. And I'm like, yet you're not ridiculing them, given that they got in the war, 1 week? End of the war.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you actually have to pick. Is it important that we were late, even though we contributed by the end of the war 75% of troop strength to the Western Front, and for all intents and purposes won the Pacific, not necessarily solo, but we contributed more troops as a percentage to the defeat of Japan than the Soviets did to the defeat of Germany. Yeah. So the same people who will simultaneously say, oh, it was the Soviets who really defeated Germany, yet then will say that the U.S. was not all that in the Pacific. And I'm like, we were the largest single force. I mean, the Australians in New Guinea were amazing. The English, the British in Burma.
And Burma.
The India theater, like the Battle of Kohima Impal, was amazing. General or Field Marshal Slim, right? He's an underrated commander. I think he is so superior to Montgomery. It's not even funny.
Oh, Monty is a joke.
Well, he's another.
I'm sorry. I'm saying mean and hurtful things.
No, it's okay. I understand. I didn't like the guy.
Compared to the
Operation Market Garden went well, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
well, and it's just little things like that. World War II is my love.
Some characters from Market Garden are actually really compelling. Like Gavin was impressive at Market Garden. He busted his butt, and it's kind of like he was single-handedly trying to win an operation that couldn't be won. One of my goals is to get up to the academy if I can ever swallow the hurt from not going there. To get up to West Point Museum, they have his jump jacket there.
They do indeed, and it's a beautiful sight. I can't believe you haven't been to USMA yet. We'll have to go.
It's painful, man.
I know.
Painful. It's been 20 years,
when I went
but
there, I realized
it's
I was
getting
like,
easier.
I made me want to join the Boy Scouts when I was there as a kid. I'm like, I should have done something.
You
'Cause
do,
I
from
could've
my
been there,
understanding, you
what I
do
mean?
get this feeling at the academy that it's, it's a very proud place.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same at Annapolis too.
I'm sure.
It's ironic that as an Army guy, that I've been to Annapolis and I've been to the Air Force Academy on several occasions because I was stationed out there.
Well, I'll tell you too. Even the regret of not going to West Point, like when I went up there to visit it anything from, and again, you and I study, all of four of us with our Civil War interests, just going there and realizing who went there and who we study, it's a very powerful experience, and I think that may supersede some of our personal feelings with West Point.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm being
I mean, like,
facetious, of course.
I
I'm
know.
not.
Future Marines went to West Point.
I'm being facetious. I want to go there because there's great Revolution history up there too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And not just Benedict
That's what
Arnold.
got me. Do you know what? That's what got me more so than even the Civil War connections I had to it was when I learned about the chain. That one fucking chain had me over everything. Just like, whoa. They put a chain up and locked them Brits out from the chain. Like, Darren, you wouldn't have gotten across the Hudson River if you were coming to West Point to visit. We would have put a big chain up and be like, no, none shall pass.
Well, I'd have just gone off.
You would have swam under it, right? Look at me, I'm a mermaid. I can go under.
Bollocks.
Well, that was I was reading a book about the I think it was actually it was the one I keep recommending to you, Tyler, that you haven't read yet.
The Furling book?
The Almost a Miracle. So they're talking about the Continental's attempt to fortify the rivers around New York to prevent passage of the Royal Navy up there. And so they get all these artillery, these big guns up on the bluffs, and they're saying, oh, yeah, it's shut down. And the Brits just sail right past, and they launch some shots, and they see it bouncing off the hull. I mean, we call our, the Constitution Old Ironsides, but it was either gross incompetence, which actually there was that too. And it was a bad performance. So our track record of shutting down the Hudson and other rivers against the Royal Navy in the Revolution and in War of 1812 was kind of laughable.
River, any bay as a whole, we didn't do that good of a job. I'll be honest.
I mean, to be honest, there's like one of the things that I was looking at recently was just like, we talk so much about the Civil War here, and what was accomplished in the war by the Union was impressive and everything.
Sure.
But a year after the Civil War, was the Austro-Prussian War, and the Austrians were army size of the Iron Brigade, right? They have the Lawrence rifles that the Iron Brigade used, and the Prussians just beat the living snot out of them because they had the breech loading needle gun. Yeah. And then 4 years after that, you have the Franco-Prussian War. The Union Army wouldn't have been able to stand up to that unless we were able to mass produce the Spencer, like on a dime. Say we went to war with Prussia in 1866. We would have got, it doesn't matter how good Grant was or Sherman or Sheridan or any of them. Right. We would have got clobbered just by sheer virtue of the technology. I mean, the Germans had the breech loading Krupp gun, which was nearly like, imagine like a French 75 without the better recoil. But the bombardments the Germans launched against the French in 1870 were just mind blowing. I don't see a Civil War, American Civil War army standing up to that.
Well, even look at World War One. Like I said, I don't know as much about World War One as I should, but when we finally had troops showing up in 1917 and into early, they had crap for weapons. All we had was our bolt action rifles. We had to borrow French machine guns and British machine guns, and French artillery. I mean, up until World War II, we were still using in the 75s because, up until I would call it after Korea, we didn't really start transitioning somewhat to a more professional and keeping a certain level of military. Look at
Permanently, yeah.
after World War II, we did all but disbanded the military again, and Korea kicks off a few years later, and just
Well,
yeah.
that being said, for the interesting thing about the weaponry in World War One, yes, the U.S. had to, the Springfield was a quality weapon.
There wasn't enough of them.
Didn't have as good a magazine capacity as the Enfields.
Well, yeah.
But the show was garbage. The French
The
BAR,
Lewis gun was a good gun.
and then but the
The
French
Lewis gun was pretty
75 is probably for its era. Obviously modern stuff's better, but all around for what it was when it came out is probably the best artillery piece in history,
Yeah.
right? There's a reason it was revered, and the reason we kept so many of them when we came back here. It was a marvelous weapon. It was light but long range. Really interesting. It's kind of ironic because, of course, the main Civil War gun, of course, was the Napoleon, right? And people forget that that's actually not named after the emperor. Well, the first emperor. It's named after his nephew, Napoleon III, and which is really interesting to think about.
Well, also, when you think about it, that was Napoleon III still the emperor when because I know I've read in many books that France wanted to recognize the South more than even England did.
Yes, but they did not think they could win.
They couldn't do it by themselves.
A war by themselves. I mean, and to be honest, the Union was deeply concerned about it. Grant, afterwards, they said he was being a warmonger. Some people accused him of it, but he rushes Sheridan right down to the border after the war because he's deeply concerned that France is going to try to invade because you have the French down there, and of course of Cinco de Mayo, right? The Mexican defeat of France,
which they don't really celebrate down there.
Which is interesting.
They're like, oh yeah, that's an American holiday.
Guys, I hate to cut this short, but we've run out of time. We're almost an hour and 50 into it. I know.
That's what happened when you get all of us in here talking.
That's what happens when you get nerds.
I know we're a bunch of nerds. That's what we are, and that's what makes this great, gentlemen. We have a whole new year ahead of us in less than a day. Darren said we're going to be in the past while he celebrates a whole new year, by the way. So we get to look forward to that.
Can I just bring up one thing? So today is an anniversary of the Battle of Stones River.
It is
indeed.
Yes,
it is.
It started today and it finishes on the 2nd of January.
Mm-hmm.
I believe.
Sir Rosecrans thinks he's great.
Mr. Rosie. His friend is gonna get his head blown off sitting next to him on his horse.
Of course.
Yeah. For all his faults, he was a brave guy.
The Orphan Brigade is going to get
slaughtered. I like Tim's assumption. Yeah, Tim, that was great. Yes, he's a brave guy. He did some science experiments that made his face look a little different, but
he had PTSD.
He's a brave guy.
Freaking Chickamauga. He was a broken man.
One of my favorite Chickamauga stories is the Make Way for Sheridan story, by the way. Yeah, make way for Sheridan. Then he retreats. Oh yeah, hey, make way for Sheridan.
Well, for those who don't like Sheridan, people point in the wrong place. The place, if you want to slam Sheridan, is Chickamauga.
The
in my
entire
opinion.
1865. Excuse me.
Well, yeah, if you want to.
Well, if you're not going to read the book, Tyler, I don't know.
I'm going to eventually.
Which book is it?
I have to read.
Any book about Sheridan.
Well,
he's busy at the moment reading Titanic.
he goes out onto his back porch, puts his arms out.
Yeah, that's it. He's going
I've got
round
that
the
little
virtual
gate
one at the
too, so
moment.
I
He's
could,
the
yeah.
Kate Winslet with her
Well,
tits out. So
I'll have to next time we're on a field together. I'll have to
Recreate.
catch you in the middle of a stretch, and then it's gonna be meme central.
I love it. No, and that's the thing. Look, I hate Sheridan with a passion, and you guys are doing such a valiant job in trying to change that. But the problem is, I'm being stubborn and won't read anything about him because I don't want to like him, and I know if I read something
What
about
have you
him,
read
I might-
about?
Well, we all have them,
Bro.
Bragg.
Bragg's great.
What?
Oh, I got
We all
two
have the
right.
people we won't read about, and Bragg is mine.
Even the
I
people
find
I
it-
don't like, I'll read about just because. Like I hate Pope. Pope is the biggest piece of garbage general there ever was. But I will read about him because I love reading about the Battle of Second Manassas. And
Would you read about Henry Halleck?
I was there
Probably
today,
would.
actually. I was there.
Yeah. Were you at Second Manassas today?
Yeah, we did deep cut.
oh, that's my favorite spot on the battlefield.
Yeah.
It's a great
Parker's
time to
battery
go
has an
because
involvement there.
All the everything's
Well,
down. All the,
yeah.
I'm so jealous.
So-
Well, if you weren't taking us to our favorite or Darren's favorite site, Yorktown, on Saturday. Darren, we have so many favorites of yours today. Look at that. Yorktown. We have
Just stop
coffee.
it.
We have George Washington. We have, that second L we have in the word color that you guys have because we gave you that second L because you lost in 776.
So I'm not getting to go up there late next
It's
month.
aluminium, not aluminum.
Aluminium? What the fuck is an aluminium?
So
We're on this
in
again?
February, I would have to be I'm going out to California instead, most likely. But otherwise, I'd be going up to Massachusetts. I'd have to go to Bunker Hill. Oh, I'm sorry, Breeds Hill, which is where the Bunker Hill Monument.
Darren, I'm so sorry.
I hate you all.
I know you do. If it makes you feel any better, I had some sweet iced tea the other day.
Yeah.
But I had
No.
coffee this morning twice, so.
No, you don't want that.
Yes, you do want that. Hey, does
Oh, you
everybody
want
here other
coffee,
than
but
Darren
not,
agree
not
that
iced
sweet
tea. That's just
What?
wrong.
No, it's
Who
not.
invented
I'm not a
that
sweet
shit?
tea fan. I don't. I'll drink it if there was nothing else. But
That's
Where's
it's
the
like
support,
dishwater.
Daryl? Come on.
I'm
now.
sorry.
You're siding with the Brit.
I don't. Any tea is kind of the way I look at it. I'd rather drink something else.
You want to throw it in the harbor? Even sweet tea?
No, I'd rather drink coffee.
Coffee is good. Well, folks, even with our banter, we care about you guys a lot. We thank every single one of you for giving us the support that you have this year. Unfiltered Historian would not be what it is. We've almost reached 800 likes at the end of the year this year. That is incredible. And we started since July 4th. So your support is noticed. It is tremendously appreciated. And 2022 just means a lot of fun content and twice as much tea dumped in the harbor.
And I'm going to
That's
come
what I
back
could
and
do
kick you up
if
the
I was
arse.
going up to Massachusetts. I could throw some tea bags in the harbor.
Yeah, go on, do it. Do it.
Yeah, do it.
I'd film it.
You'd film it.
And then you can film it, and then you'll get arrested for polluting.
think
Oh,
it-
you haven't
it's
seen
pollution,
Boston
though?
Harbor. There's that would be an improvement.
Yeah, it would clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like the Rappahannock.
It's
does
Is
today.
there
The
tires in
Rappahannock-
there and that?
Toxins and heavy metals.
We
Yeah.
might have to talk about the tires in the cars that are polluting the mine run battlefield at Payne's Farm. That could be
What?
a cool one. Oh yeah, there's a 1950s Mercury stuck at Payne's Farm.
I've never noticed. I don't think I saw it.
Well, guess what? That's just an excuse for us to go out there.
And
That's true.
at Myers Hill, there's a tire wall.
That's right. And Chris, I hope you don't mind us quoting you. He was like, and over here is where the Union Army built a barricade out of rubber tires.
And we believed him, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were
No,
like,
I
oh,
did-
yeah.
At first, because he built it up like he was about to show us earthworks. He's like, and the Union Army built this wonderful set of earthworks here using rubber tires. And we look at this just huge rubber tire wall on Myers Hill, and we're like, that's what McClellan meant. Okay. Folks, thank you guys so much for joining. And my Unfiltered folks, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you all for joining us.
Take it easy.
Take it easy, guys.